pleasure to be able to speak here to you all on this conference. My name is Hyunseo Lee. I'm a student at the Korea University of Foreign Studies. And the topic of our study here today is, as mentioned, enhancing emotion detection through ChatGPT-Augmented text transformation in social media text. And I stand here today also to represent my fellow co-authors, Sanghyub John Lee of Auckland University and Kiseong Lee from Chungang University as well. I send my utmost gratitude. All right, let us get right into it. So excuse me. Okay, so in today's world where technology is developing faster than ever, the field of engineering has faced drastic changes, as was the case with any other field of study. And machines and programs, let alone complex robots, have become much more than vessels of our intentions. And recent technologies such as AI has allowed these tools once, or mere tools once, to feel, and that is to say, detect emotions. And we believe our study here today, implementing generative AI such as ChatGPT to augment pre-existing datasets will be a valuable asset for future natural language processing applications, helping to develop emotionally intelligent AI, which could be useful in many areas, such as customer service, marketing, and human-robot interactions, to list a few. And as mentioned earlier, we collect our dataset from X, formerly known as Twitter, to develop this emotion detection model. And while social networking services are a great source of natural language datasets, it also comes with its fair share of challenges. For one, unique language patterns, slangs, and abbreviations make these texts especially difficult for classical NLP models to detect what the message is trying to convey, such as lexicon-based models. And to be frank, it is not much easier for people either. And furthermore, not many previous studies were able to collect a sufficiently large and detailed dataset to even begin developing a competent LLM model. And to simply put, old models and datasets aren't just cutting it anymore. And so here I present our research questions. Firstly, how effective is the use of ChatGPT in augmenting and developing a new dataset for the purpose of enhanced emotion detection? And secondly, how does training on either the original, augmented, or combined dataset affect the performance of various transformer models, and which works best? So we all know that a good AI model is nothing without a good dataset. And so we collect our own, one at the bottom, 6H 2023, consisting of 300,000 tweets. And on top of this, we also use an additional 10 datasets to create a comprehensive dataset totaling over 400,000 instances total. And furthermore, these tweets were also translated into tamer, everyday languages using ChatGPT to enhance the generalizability of the resulting model. These were collected separately and will be used later, titled as the augmented dataset. Now you may wonder how these tweets were labeled for training. Some of these datasets were annotator-based, the type 1, while the others were self-rated, the type 2. Now the following 7 datasets, effective Ieee Moment 2017 and the likes, belong to the former, where the labeling emotion of the tweet was determined by a group of annotators all coming to an agreement on a single emotion. In this instance, it would be anger. And now, unfortunately, this method is rather inefficient and expensive, and at only 50,000 instances total, it makes up for a meager 1/8 of the total sum. Now, the other 4 datasets, such as 6H 2023, ICER, and the likes, belonged to the latter, and where the emotion of the tweet was predetermined and explicitly written within the tweet by the author in a form of a hashtag. This information is then extracted and used to label the tweet, and in this case, at an impressive total of 3,500,000 tweets, the self-rated tweets form the definitive majority in this study. Now, returning to the topic of data augmentation process, here are some examples of our tweets and their ChatGPT-Augmented counterparts. On the top, you have a rather ordinary tweet, a simple lamentation with a couple of hashtags here and there. Translated on the right, that is what the everyday language model would look like. It is a lot clearer as to what the text is trying to say. It's a little bit more elaborate, and it is also written in plain text, that is to say, it doesn't have any hashtags or any other traits as such. On the bottom is a slightly more difficult tweet to decipher, with its body riddled with hashtags and niche references. This is more so what you would expect when you're collecting data from social networking services like Twitter. And we deal with this, again, by translating it into more everyday language using ChatGPT, as shown on the right. And in this case, it also becomes much clearer as to what the message is trying to convey, although the references still remain a little enigmatic at times, but it gets the job done. Now, in both cases, it seems as though that the emotion is much easier to identify in the augmented text rather than in the original, but is that to say that the augmented dataset is superior? We will return to that question in the later parts of the presentation. Now, to develop the actual model with our dataset, we use a series of transformer models, transformer language models, and while they differ slightly in their details, the main gist of it remains largely identical. And I would like to explain a little bit as to how the mechanism works here. So first, the model vectorizes nearly every word we could imagine. And that is to say, every word is given a mathematical position in a multidimensional plane, so that their relationship with every other word could be measured and categorized. Now, for instance, traditional natural language processing models were not able to distinguish, for example, the phrases "I am happy" and "I am not happy." And this is because it does not understand that when the word "not" comes before another word, it negates the initial meaning and it kind of just flips it the other way around. And this shortcoming was overcome with the BERT and other transformer language models, and are able to identify the human emotions on a much deeper level. And in this case, the models were used to identify and categorize the emotion detected within a given text, and we sort it into 6 different emotions as the following: anger, disgust, fear, joy, sadness, and surprise. And this was suggested by Ahmed with his 6 basic emotion model. Now, it would also be fitting to clarify now that to ensure the integrity of the data labeling process, the only tweets containing exact emotions listed here were included in our dataset. For example, blah, 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 hashtag joy, or hashtag disgust. Now, to put our datasets to test, we selected 4 transformer models to train with the following datasets: original, augmented, and combined. Now, with this approach, we aim to determine the best performing strategy. And the results are as follows. Now, across all models, there was a notable increase in the F1 scores when the training datasets changed from the original to the combined dataset. You can see there must be about 4% increase across all models. And here is a visual representation of the results to help understand the dynamics of this experiment. Now, the gray represents the original dataset, yellow the augmented, and red the combined. Ultimately, the Roberta model, robustly optimized bidirectional encoder reference from transformer approach, trained on the combined dataset, demonstrated the highest performance at the F1 score of 0.84. Now, it is interesting to note here that the augmented dataset performs the worst, the yellow ones, despite its perceived clarity in conveying a single emotion. Now, it is our speculation that this is due to the overt alteration of the original text done by ChatGPT and the subsequent loss of its authenticity. Its nuance, one could say, a key factor that plays when detecting such a fine thing as emotions. Lost in translation, per se. Now, how does this answer our research questions? It was shown that ChatGPT was, in fact, a very successful transformative tool that significantly enhanced the model's emotion detection capabilities through augmented datasets. And secondly, the most effective strategy proved to be the combined dataset on the Roberta model, boasting a whopping 84% accuracy in detecting human emotions, followed by the original and the augmented dataset. And we believe that the findings of this study and the resulting emotion detection model have great potential in their implications. It could be used to aid machines and even people alike to achieve enhanced emotional intelligence. It could also be applied to fields such as HRI, with its potential to create more emotionally aware robots and AI systems. And these findings may also be applicable beyond the realm of engineering and robotics, and may simply be used to influence future NLP developments in terms of data structure and augmentation. And after all, if there's anything that you take away from this presentation, let it be of the utmost importance of having a good data set when developing any AI models, let alone an LLM. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you all for attending this session here today. It was a pleasure to have spoken here to you all, and I'll now be taking questions, please.
Thank you very much for sharing your results with us. So, any questions from the audience?
Hello, first of all, thank you so much for your interesting presentation. I also work in the realm of language models and emotion detections. It was really interesting. I think I have two questions. One is about web scraping the Twitter data, because I believe Twitter has made it hard to scrape data from their platform after a certain time. So I was just wondering, how did the data set itself was collected?
That did indeed happen after the new ownership of Twitter, X. The data collecting process has become considerably more difficult. However, luckily, our dataset 6H 2023 was collected about a month before that happened, so we didn't have to struggle with all the complications.
That's nice. And my second question was just generally about the emotion model that your team used. So I think the model that was used was basic emotion with six categories. And I've seen you also used Go Emotions dataset, which contains up to like 24 more fine-grained emotion categories. So I was just wondering, what were your thoughts on picking more simple emotion models over more fine-grained, more detailed, like fine-grained models? Yeah.
Well, our purpose with this study was really just to get the basics, the fundamentals down in place. And we believe that just having 6 emotions is sometimes more than enough. If you really, we actually did a little survey with people on this topic. We asked some people to identify emotions in the tweets that we use in our datasets, and given the 6 emotion model suggested by Ekman. And even with just 6 seemingly simple model, people really struggled with that. We maybe had 50% accuracy, guessing that right. And so we believe that 24 emotions, that's kind of overreaching it. And so we really wanted to just keep it simple and get the technicalities all precise.
Masha, thank you so much.
Okay, so we are short of time, but maybe one short question is okay.
Thank you so much. I was kind of wondering, or if you have any thoughts on, so I noticed in kind of the emotions that you selected, there was only 2 positive ones versus 4, like I would say negative ones. Do you have any thoughts on how that might have affected your accuracy or?
Accuracy? Well, that's kind of hard to say because after we decided on which emotion model to base our study on, we also based all of our data sets on this as well. So none of our data sets deviated from these 6 set emotions. So we didn't have to deal with, say, tweets that were conveying love per se. Those would all be categorized as joy, simply put. And while it is true that this 6 emotion model seems to lag in the positive side of things, I think that's just how it is. I think we just feel more strongly towards negative emotions, and hence why it is more maybe accurately divided rather than the positive side of things. Because it's more difficult to, say, distinguish between love and joy than it is to distinguish between anger and fear.
That's true. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on to the next presentation. And the next presentation will be held by Edmund Liu and